And in the first, very first seconds, there will be, for sure, there will be echoes, then will be silenced. Just some patience. And okay, we are live now. So very welcome to some of our speakers. Other speakers will still join us during the development of this event. What is this event? I think, okay, everybody that is attending on YouTube knows that we are doing our first event of the coalition supporting the 18th SDG. This is a proposal that we are advancing to the United Nations in order to be added an 18th SDG to the 17 Sustainable Development Goals that are in the 2030 agenda of the UN. This 18th SDG in our proposal should focus on space, because space is a great factor of sustainability that was neglected in the first 17 SDGs, because we make an analysis of that, because that agenda was conceived before 2015, and in 2015 we had a very important turning point in the history. That is the start of reusable rockets. Reusable rockets are making a revolution in the space economy, and not only in space economy, because the space economy is already the leader segment of global economy. So space should be finally recognized as a great factor of sustainable development, because the only sustainable development possible is for 8 billion people on Earth is outside the boundaries of Earth atmosphere. So to start, we have to start developing civilian development outside in the cislunar space, on Mars, and on the asteroid belt, and beyond in the solar system. So this is the great proposal that we are advancing. And of course, we are thinking both about space technologies for benefit of Earth and for the benefit of expansion of civilization, for the future space communities that will live and work in space. In fact, we think that only an 18 space development goal focused on space, civilian space development, can support the rest of the 17 SDGs and making them really sustainable. So this is what we are advancing. This is our proposal. We already got the support of 36 space advocacy organizations, not only because we also start to have some educational entities joining our coalition. Today, we had the addition of the European Institute for Innovation for Sustainability. That is an educational entity, and we will be working in the next weeks and months to attract universities in our coalition, because that will definitely be another big contribution to our campaign. We will be working for September for a panel at the United Nations General Assembly 78 that will be held in New York. It will be 18th of September, or likely it could be delayed a couple of days, and so we could make it maybe the 20th, because there are some concerns, because in the 18th of September and 19th of September there are several high-level assemblies at New York. Therefore, there will be a lot of states, parties, representatives over there, and it would be possible that the space-related sessions will have less attention, and therefore there are suggestions that we move ahead 2 days, but it will be just 2 days. Our work doesn't change toward September. So this is basically what we are doing, what we are working for, and this will be our summer. So no holidays this summer. We will be working for that, and we hope that a lot of people, for sure, the 36 organizations already joined in our alliance, but more that will come, more other entities that will come, can help and make this campaign really viral, a viral one, because our main goal is to talk to the people at large, to the public opinion. So we have to attract media to talk about us, about our proposal. We have to invite everybody to talk about that and to explain why humanity need to expand into space, and we need to do it as soon as possible. So, okay, this was my small introduction. I want to give the floor firstly to Bernard Foyng. Professor Foyng is the president of Space Renaissance International. He was in Vienna together with Alfred Ansadua and with Carlton Johnson, and they worked together to support Carlton in his beautiful speech that he made before the assembly of the COPUOS 66 session. So Bernard, okay, last thing. So these three first speakers, Bernard, Al, and Carlton, will have 10 minutes each, because we hope they can also tell us what they have done in Vienna and what was the reaction of the assembly and all these kind of things. All the other intervention, other speech will have 7 minutes maximum. Of course, we will, along the meeting, understand who will speak, and maybe some that are expected will not speak, so maybe we can have some minutes more, but let's think about 7 minutes as the rule. Then we will see what will happen. Okay, so Bernard, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Adriano. Thanks for putting this event together. Thanks to all of you for joining this event. So we organized with Space Renaissance International. I've served as a president since 2 years now. And indeed, I come back from the UN office in Vienna, where we had the United Nations Committee for Peaceful Use of Outer Space. And we had some presentations from different groups, also groups with whom we are partners, that include the National Space Society, Moon Village Association, we had IAF, we had IAA. And actually, I had a presentation there, which was exactly 10 minutes. So I would like to, share this presentation, if you allow me. Yeah, and so it's a presentation that I did. Can you see it?
Yes. No, not yet, but we see.
Can you see the presentation?
We are seeing your screen.
So, and indeed, we are building on the number of activities, space for.
Bernard, sorry. We are seeing your black. Sorry, Bernard, we are seeing your black screen, not your presentation.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. So let's say I'm going to try again. Yeah, so the presentation I did was, in fact, focused on activities of research and capacity building that we have conducted in the last 15 years with a number of organizations. And this includes some activities that
we can't hear you, Bernard.
We neither can hear you, Bernard.
Do you hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah, you hear me now? Yes.
Now we can.
I will make
cannot hear
a short
you.
summary of what. Now you hear me?
Off and on, Bernard, off and on.
Okay. Oh, sorry. And of course, we tested everything before. And
Maybe summarize.
yeah. So now do you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So in short, I made a presentation on some activities that we conducted in the area of science, data analysis, instrument development, but also we have been involved in the last 10 years in building some habitat where we have performed some analog simulations to train some of the activities for research and for astronautics that we will conduct in the future based on the Moon and Mars. And we have also addressed the aspect of protection of the lunar environment, and particularly in view of sustainable goals for Earth. We have seen that there are a lot of synergies with sustainable goals we address in space and sustainable goals we address from space and then beyond the Earth. Clearly, also my purpose was to say that we have to engage the next generation, and we do that through activity of training of young professionals, and we have also to engage all disciplines of human-kind creativities, not only the science and technology, but also architecture, design, arts, and innovation. And a new area that we have developed is an area that is linked with business. So for what I presented at UN, I had input from the International Lunar Exploration Working Group of COSPAR, from Moon Mars, from National Space Society and Space Renaissance, and a number of partners. Clearly, first element for Space for All includes analyzing space data and making accessible those data that we obtain on Earth, on the Moon and Mars, and to make them available to all the community of professional, young and also more advanced, and we have really to share this data. And so I gave the example of some of the data I obtained myself as I was the lead of the first mission to the Moon, SMART 1 of the European Space Agency, launched 20 years ago. And we have shared this data with the whole world. This allowed us to embark into a set of international collaboration with other countries that use first our data and that we are preparing for some of their missions. This includes the Kaguya mission from Japan, the Chinese mission Chang'e 1 and 2, Chandrayaan 2, and then we had a series of US mission to which we have participated. So the second pillar is in fact the build-up of an international peaceful collaboration set of activities. And this 25 years ago, we created actually with this COSPA, the International Lunar Exploration Working Group, that allowed a platform for exchange of data, but even exchange of instruments that were put on the various missions. And so we developed with COSPA a vision, which was called the Moon Village Roadmap, an initiative to build a sustainable exploration ecosystem with successive phases. First, precursor orbiters like a SMART 1 and the others I mentioned, a robotic village, and we have started de facto a robotic village. In 2013, we had a lunar lander that is still in operation, Chang'e 3 from China. We will have a human outpost with short duration stay, like 1 week, 2 weeks, and then we'll have a sustainable settlement with extended stay of 6 months, 12 months, but with rotation that will allow a permanent human presence on the surface of the Moon. So within these various communities, COSPA, IF, Academy of Astronautics, ILWIG, EGU, European Geoscience Union, and also the United Nations, we addressed every year a series of events with the community from science, from technology, from space resources, economy, lawyers, and to address various aspects. And this led to a set of recommendations and also community declaration starting from 1992, where we had this international conference on exploration and utilization of the Moon, and where we had declarations concerning the way to work together toward this new village. Now, we had a set of recommendations, but after we flew some of this mission to space, we realized that we needed also to build capacity in the young generation to prepare for this moon village and for this sustainable presence on the moon. And indeed, there are a number of challenges when we'll be on the surface of the moon. We'll have to get there. So we have people building rocket, but also landers. So you know some of them. At the moment, SpaceX has been selected by NASA, for instance, for Artemis 3. We have now also so Blue Origin that has been selected for another lander, a bit smaller, that will be for the subsequent Artemis mission. But there are also a number of landers that are prepared worldwide. So get there. But also we have challenges of operation in extreme environment, communication, survival, life support, habitat design, mobility of robots and astronauts, use of resources, and also the novelty of having a full-fledged partnership between robot and human. Also, in the frame of new space economy, a new aspect is that we will have users and stakeholders that will come from new space areas, but also non-space actors. And so it's very important to engage those, because they are going to contribute know-how, but also financial resource and work that will allow to have the implement the vision of space for all beyond the Earth. Now, I shared also that we have been working on some design and test of habitat. While I was working at SDG, we built a small laboratory module, and we conducted an isolation campaign for various number of crew. We have also a base in Poland, where we conduct a 1-week isolation campaign without window for professionals living on the moon. And this way they learn how to live together in extreme condition, isolation, and also in interdisciplinary and international crew composition.
One minute.
Bernard,
1 minute. Please.
Thank you. We have also some field campaigns that we conduct in various sites on Earth. So we went to Etna, we went to Utah, Iceland, and so on. And now we have available a base that we have built at Mauna Loa volcano. This is called ICES. It's run by the International Moon Base Alliance. And after a COVID period and also a big eruption, we have restarted the operation in this base. Now, to bring space for the public, we have also worked with artists, architects, designers, and also business developers. And we developed a platform, Art Moon Mars, where we have organized a number of events with our artists. And one of them is a gallery of art that we have flown to the International Space Station for 1 year, and we intend to fly to the moon. Finally, we have also got a grant from the European Commission for a new consortium that involves 5 universities in Europe and various NGO. And we have got a partnership with this Eurospace Hub consortium with Space Renaissance International. We have organized events together at the International Astropolitical Congress, and we have specific grants to support space researchers, astronauts, and entrepreneurs together. And in this area, we have been working with Space Renaissance International on various programs to advance the civilian development of space. And indeed, we have proposed under the very high motivation and leadership of Adriano Ottino from Space Renaissance International, our founder and also vice president, this SDG 18, Space for All, Space for Civilian Development, where there was an analysis of all the existing sustainable development goals and how we can regroup them, but how you need now to have dedicated space sustainable development goals in this phase of the evolution of humanity, where we are going to expand into deep space. And so for this, this is a kind of an introduction context of what we have done to prepare in the last decade for this new initiative, Space for All. And I would like now to give back the floor to you, to the participants of this panel. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Bernard. Okay, so we will give the floor now to Alfred Anzaldúa, who will tell us what they have done in Vienna, the 5th of June at COPUOS. Okay, Alfred.
Yes, okay, thank you very much. My report will only take about 4 minutes, but I hope it will summarize what actually happened. Yes, it was on the 5th of June that the National Space Society, the International Committee of the National Space Society, the head of that, Carlton Johnson, during a general exchange of views, declared that in partnership with Space Renaissance International, the International Committee of the National Space Society urged state parties to introduce a resolution to establish an 18th space development goal for the universal and sustainable space development, space for all on Earth and beyond. Turns out that 34 other space organizations have joined us in this effort to make sustainable human expansion into space the 18th space development goal, including the Mars Society, the Lifeboat Foundation, Expanding Frontiers, Gen Space, Beyond Earth, the Space Tourism Society, and others too many to mention. The context for this is that the 2023 Space Development Goal Summit, also called Summit of the Future, will be convened on the 18th and 19th of September 2023. And I think, Adriana, you mentioned that there would be big meetings there at the United Nations General Assembly High-Level Week. The heads of state and government will gather at the United Nations headquarters in New York to follow up and review the implementation of the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development and the 17 Sustainable Development Goals, thus far, of course. So our panels there will be, it will be a very good time to have panels there. And the National Space Society, the International Committee of the National Space Society, and Space Renaissance International, in coordination with each other, will continue to push for the 18th Space Development Goal during 2 panels at the UN General Assembly on September 18th. And well, you, Adriano, you just mentioned it might be it might be the 20th instead. But whatever date it is, we will also coordinate with SRI on various dates at the Economic and Social Council, also called ECOSOC. So getting back to that's what I wanted to say about the 18th space development goal for space, sustainable development goal for space, I mean. But I want to get back and say a little bit about what happened at COPUOS. The hot issues at COPUOS were all related to orbits cluttered by satellites and orbital debris. And these issues sprang up during discussions about the long-term sustainability of activities in space and about quiet and dark skies for astronomy and the upsurge of satellite launches in the past 2 years. Especially the concern was of the satellite mega constellation launches and the purported use of, and also for some delegates, the purported use of civilian satellites used for military purposes. For all these reasons, I gave a short technical presentation on potential ways to clear orbital debris via in-space salvage, repair, refueling, refurbishment, recycling, and assembly, as well as a limited amount of deorbiting. And that is the end of my report. If anybody has a question, I can answer it, but I think I did that in around 4 minutes.
Yeah, you were fantastic, Al. Very, very essential and streamed. So I will now give the floor to the next. Thank you very much, Alfred. And
my pleasure.
Your presentations. I will give now the floor to Carlton Johnson. And from now on, I will notice when you will be 3 minutes left.
Good
and
idea.
when you will be stopped. I will try not to interrupt you by talking, and neither in the chat, because when we are talking, we are not looking at the chat. Therefore, it is difficult to notice. But however, we will try to keep the things going in the plan that we made. So, okay, Carton, are you ready? Take the floor.
I am. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, first I just want to thank...
Could you maybe activate your camera so we can also see you?
Unfortunately, I'm not able to do that right now. I have limited bandwidth, so
Never
I
mind.
want to make sure you can at least hear me.
Go ahead.
The picture up there of me, though, hopefully that's my best shot, so I want you to remember me that way. So my comments will also be short. First, I want to thank Al and Paul, who was there with us, and Rick Janae, who helped pull together a lot of the data that we were used to speak with at Copious. My overall assessment mirrors Al's in that I believe we had a touchdown partnering together with SRI and communicating that message. That said, I think my recommendation going forward would be we need to take this to the next level in addition to having the participants who are joining us. The ongoing issue with the new SDG is that there's conversations about whether or not we need an 18th SDG or not, because allegedly information is embedded in the other SDGs. And so what we tried to communicate was from the value proposition of space is going to be able to bring us together as multinational entities working towards common goals. If we focus on space-related sustainability, those items have a return on investment for Earth-based type issues and needs. And if we can orient this towards utilizing space sustainability to encourage other nations who are either aspiring spacefaring nations or nations who are not spacefaring who probably could add value to that discussion, we should orient the sustainability goals and objectives under space to help bring them out of their shell, if you will. And then that gives us more people who would be interested in supporting this initiative. As we talked to different people, we got some resonated thoughts from people, and those nations really seem to be in tune with that. So as we get ready for this panel, I would offer one, we need to make sure we're very clear on the value proposition of space, why it's important and why we all need to go together. Two, why sustainability under space has to be done the way that we're asking for it. And three, communicate the return on investment is not only going to be able to help Earth-based issues and problems, but it's going to bring all nations into the spacefaring economy so everyone can play together and contribute equitably. Overall, those are my comments. Look forward to any additional questions. Thank you for pulling this panel together.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Carton. Okay, you saved a lot of minutes. Really.
I tried to be efficient for you.
Yeah, okay. So we can give the floor now to Frank White of the Human Space Program. By the way, Frank White is also the origin of the overview effect. That is a very, very famous concept. So Frank, the floor is yours if you're ready. Frank?
You asked us to mute, and I did.
Okay.
Great. All right. Thank you so much. So first of all, thank you so much. I know many of you, and I've known many of you for a long time. In fact, there was a bit of debate among the white hairs here, who's the oldest. That was an interesting debate, but mostly because it means so many of us have been working for so many years on issues like this. I think today is historic. I want to thank Adriano and Carlton and Alfred and everybody who has brought us to this point that we are having this discussion with the United Nations. And I do believe it's an important dialogue. So I do want to say that. I want to say that I'm here on behalf of the Human Space Program. Our mission is a sustainable, ethical, and inclusive evolution of humanity into the solar ecosystem. That's kind of a mouthful, but I could summarize it by saying I agree with Adriano on everything. Basically, I think we've got to get out there, and we've got to get a lot of people out there as soon as possible. And I also think it's the best thing we can do for planet Earth. So let me just share, if I can, a brief presentation. Here we go, sharing my screen. Can everybody see my presentation?
Yes.
All right.
Could you go full screen? Yeah, fantastic.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Sustainable Development Goals, the Overview Effect, and Large-Scale Space Migration. Let's start with our topic, Sustainable Development Goals. These are clearly worth pursuing. I think it's a noble thing that humanity has agreed on these at the UN. If we can achieve them by 2030, the world would be a much better place. I don't know if we can achieve them without the dimension of space, what I call space with a capital S, not just physical, but the whole mentality of it. Something is missing, and I think there are two things missing. One is a unified vision for humanity, and the other is a larger field of action or a larger ecosystem. When Carlton gave his talk in Wien, he talked about team humanity. And he talked about we're all in this together. That's what we need. We've got to have a shift in awareness that will support this beautiful list of objectives or goals. I would like to humbly offer the overview effect as one way to get to that unified vision. You know, I've interviewed almost 50 astronauts. They are all profoundly affected, or most of them are, by being in outer space. We only had about 600 plus people have the experience, and we're already seeing changes in consciousness on Earth. But we need more people. And it's a shift in awareness that happens when people see the Earth from space and in space. And I believe that it can play a big role in creating this unified vision. They see no borders and boundaries. They see a whole system. I think it's a way of seeing the 17 Sustainable Development Goals as an interactive group of possibilities. And I think more and more people will see it that way. I've always felt astronauts can say it better than I can. I'd love to show you a bunch of astronaut interviews. I've chosen one. Sarah Sabri is the first Egyptian person to experience the overview or to go into space. She is the second citizen astronaut for Space Humanity, a nonprofit that sends people into orbit or on suborbital hops. And what do they have to do? They have to come back and do something supporting the Sustainable Development Goals. This is tying the overview effect directly to our topic. Sarah makes an incredibly important point. We are in space. We have always been in space. We will always be in space. We are on a natural spaceship moving through the universe at a high rate of speed. I'm telling you that because I know it intellectually. I would like for you to hear Sarah talk about it from experience. And I open the interview asking her, what changed for you when you went on this suborbital hop?
Is there any way to summarize briefly what you think changed?
Yeah, I think so. I think one of the biggest things for me was the lack of separation between Earth and space. And because we've always used the terms space and Earth kind of separate from each other. And we always thought, okay, we're doing things on Earth here, and then like there are certain things that are going to be done in space. But for me, when I was up there, I realized that there's no actual separation between the two. It is just a continuation of it, and we're just a part of this much bigger thing. And that to me, when it clicked, it just like was, oh, like it makes sense why we're doing what we're doing. It makes sense for us to need to explore it. It makes sense for us to need to understand more of it because it is us. We are it. And that was the biggest thing for me. And I think I was more on the side of looking towards the outside. Like I felt this connection between Earth and space more than anything. It just felt so part of one another that it was so hard. It's so hard for me to separate the two now. It's just, I think that was the most overwhelming feeling that I felt from this whole experience.
So we need this unified vision. And Carlton said, we're all in this together. This is a constant refrain that the astronauts repeat. When I say, what did you get out of being in outer space? I got that we're all in this together. What happens in America affects what's happening in Germany. What happens in Japan affects what's happening in Colombia. The pain of those in Turkey when there's an earthquake, it's our pain. We're all in this together. How can we achieve these goals without that consciousness? So we have to ask ourselves, thanks, Adriano, we have to ask ourselves, is Earth our home? Well, of course, Earth is our home. We were born here. We've been evolving here for millions of years, thousands of years. But isn't there more to it? Can we really continue to do all of our policy making as if that's it? Is that it? Or is there more? Well, there is more. Space is our home too. And the solar ecosystem is just waiting for us. It's out there. And it's waiting to greet us. You know, a lot of astronauts have told me, I felt really comfortable out there. I really didn't think I would, but I did. So I think we have to have a larger understanding of home if we want to achieve what we're talking about. Can we have both Earth and space? Yes, we can. And that's why I think it's so important for the UN to acknowledge it with this 18th SDG. To paraphrase a recent political campaign in America, yes, we can. And I would say, yes, we must. As I said, I agree with Adriano on everything, and especially large-scale space migration. And we have to flip the script. Leaving planet Earth is not abandoning planet Earth. Leaving the Earth could be an act of love. Because our impact on the carrying capacity of this planet is so profound. As Adriano said, how can we possibly continue to impact the Earth the way we are? We cannot. With large-scale space migration, with overview consciousness, we can move into a larger ecosystem. We can move from a finite game to an infinite game. We will reduce the pressure of human civilization on the Earth's carrying capacity. And back to our point, we will increase the chances that we can achieve the Sustainable Development Goals by 2030, and also that we will indeed have a universal and sustainable space development as our 18th SDG. I'll just close with this visual credit. I talked to DALL-E 2. Many of you may know DALL-E 2 is an artificial intelligence image generator. I said, please show me the Earth as a sparkling jewel of the solar system. And this is what I got. So thank you very much. I'm honored to be with all of you, looking forward to our next steps. And I think I did it within the time available, did I not?
Yes, you were perfectly in time, Frank. Thank you very much. Beautiful speech. Thank you for doing that. I really, love to have all of you here today. It's fantastic. So now Friedrich Janet of Expanding Frontiers is in our program. Friedrich,
hello.
Are you ready?
Hello, Adriano.
Hello.
Can you hear me?
Yes, sure.
So, well, hey, thank you very much. I actually wasn't here to say very much since my colleagues Alfred and Carlton of NSS kind of gave everyone a review of what was going on. But all I'll say is, Adriano, thank you so much for bringing this whole group together. This is really exciting to see everyone here and where we're going to be moving forward. And I'm also very excited to participate in this, both through the National Space Society and through Expanding Frontiers. So looking forward to helping the effort as much as I can. Thank you.
Yeah. So okay, if you like, you have some minutes to give us your vision, if you want to say something, of course. Or we can save your time. Just save your time and go ahead.
I would say let's just save. Happy to save time. I'm very much I would be just mirroring what has already been said on the floor. So.
Okay. So thank you for being here, Friedrich. And okay, we will look forward to work together in the next weeks and months. Okay. Definitely. So now time for Stephen Wolf of the Beyond Earth Institute. Stephen, are you there?
Hey, Adriano, and hey, everyone.
Hello.
Thank you so much. Can you hear me?
Yes, sure.
Can you hear me? Yeah, thank you so much. I'm not going to use all the time, but I will make a few comments and echo things. I mean, certainly it's hard to follow Frank White and his eloquence. And, hats off to you, Frank. Thank you so much. I also want to give recognition to Adriano for initiating this effort. I, for one, years ago when the SDG, the 17 SDGs were first announced, one of the first things I did was to scan it to see, is there one for space? And so almost from the moment that they came out, that was my inclination. Well, where is it for space? Right. So when Adriano came forward with this initiative, I just could not resist. And I said, absolutely, we want to be part of that. And really, the reason why is that, the world and the international community. Hank, I need you. Can you go on mute? There's Mr. Tetris. Thanks.
Okay.
Yeah. So we're in a situation where the global community is recognizing that the world is a unique and precious place. Hopefully, to a certain extent, that was a result of the overview effect, right? That Frank talks about. We're seeing the planet as a whole, as a pale blue dot in the universe, and that's eliciting in many people on this planet the recognition of we've got to protect this home, and SDGs are a reflection of that, and we probably could say that not enough attention is being put on them, that there could be much more that we could do, but there is a sizable recognition that this is important. But what this SDG 18 is representing is this other side, right? So want to look at the planet. We want to restore the health and balance of the ecosystem. We want the human family as a whole to be whole and be and we want a world where everyone's needs are met, whether you're the least of us or the most of us. That no one, no matter what country you're from, is left behind. And how magnificent is that initiative? But then there's this other side, and this is what I tried to get at in my book and my philosophy. I almost said the overview effect, the obligation. So in my obligation, I began this work by recognizing that the expansion of human life beyond Earth is an obligation that the human species has to the planet that gave us life, right? That expansion is a good thing, that extending civilization beyond Earth and all the fruits that can come from that, from the solar system, is indeed a good thing. And it is something that we are impelled to do. And everybody on this call sort of feels that on an emotional gut level, that this is something that we must be engaged in. But in reflecting on this work, I realized that there was a twin obligation, right? So, and that twin obligation is looking back on Earth and being a planetary steward, right? So, in many sense, those of us who are self-aware enough are dividing ourselves into two groups. One is really focused on the respecting or being good stewards of the planet, and the others are saying that in order for us to thrive as a civilization, we must move outward, right? And then in addition, by moving outward, we are then going to help the planet, right? So we are addressing this issue that is this perennial issue, and this is really what we must be doing in the context of pushing the SDG 18, is addressing this perennial a statement that why are you going into space when there's so many problems down here on Earth? When in the reality, as we understand it, the more that we go into space, the more that we engage in innovation and develop the innovations that we need to develop in order to not only survive, but to thrive in outer space. Those technology and innovations come down to Earth and support the planet in myriads of ways so that we can create that sustainability. So the future of that are portrayed in films like Elysium, right, where in that film, you know, the rich people go up into outer space and the poor people are staying down on Earth. That's not how it's going to happen. It's we are all one human family that will some will remain on Earth and some will expand into space, and that ultimately that's the ultimate goal that we want to move into. So when we look at the SDG 18 now, it is so wonderful that we are stepping into this realm, because now we're making our case on truly on the international stage, and we can't back away from that, even if it's even if we don't get through this year, or even if it's not necessarily this particular format, because I've seen those notes where there's a little bit of pushback. We've already got the 17 SDGs, and gosh, it's kind of too late to maybe adopt an 18th one. I think, as somebody said to me, that in some ways it's not, yes, that would be good, but it's actually just as important that we're actually on the stage and doing this. And I can't believe I'm using up all these minutes I said I wasn't going to do. But I think I just feel that I can't express enough how important it is for us to be speaking to the UN, speaking to them essentially about human settlement to space. This initiative should be a first, right? So if we don't quite get it over the line with this particular format, we need to recognize A, that it's making an impression, and B, there are other fights, or there are other opportunities, if you will, other initiatives to enlighten the global community about the importance of human expansion into space. And with that, Adriano, thank you so much for including me in this important mission.
Thank you very much, Stephen. Beautiful speech, and thank you for doing that, and to also to in some way recalling that it will not be an easy battle that we have to go. I just want to mention that in these days we are getting some warnings that we have opposers. They are not explicit by now. They are not coming outside to say we don't agree with your position about 18 SDG, because if they do so, we will be happy to welcome them and to get into a discussion, a public discussion. But so far they didn't manifest clearly themselves. We already know that there are some oppositors in the UN, not only in the UN, but in the UN, because maybe they don't like that we are some way disturbing UN, no? Because we are pointing our fingers and say, you see, the agenda, 2030 agenda is up to date, is to be updated because now it is old and so on. They don't like that. So it's some way something against their authority, so we have to be prepared to be very, very flat, and because our position, our arguments are so strong that we really don't need to get into hard confrontations. I think it will be enough that we have the possibility to explain our positions, and a lot of people will agree with us. So, okay, let's go ahead. Let's go ahead now. Let me see who is the next speaker. We have John Spencer or Sam Coniglio from the Space Tourism Society, but I am afraid they are not with us.
I'm not here now.
I think they are not with us, so we go ahead. If they will join, we will give them the floor. Marie-Louise Heuser was also in the program, but she wrote to me that she is in holidays and she doesn't have a Wi-Fi connection. Therefore, I don't know if she will connect with her phone or not. So, okay, Adrian Webb, the Space Value Foundation. Adrian, I think I saw.
Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, okay, you're there.
Okay.
So the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. So yes, I am on the call with my co-founder of the Space Value Foundation, who is Dr. Armin Papatsian, who you might see down there in the corner. And first of all, I wanted to thank Frank for his words earlier on. And much of what I will say here will echo what he says. And I would like to drill a little bit deeper into some of the issues that make everything that everybody is saying here today such a pertinent issue, and what puts sustainability at the heart of that. And if I may, I'll try and share a screen now very quickly to talk you through what we mean. Space Value Foundation was set up to look at the financial mathematics of investment. Now, how does that connect with the world of space? Well, investment has an impact on all layers of space, from microplastics right down to the nano world, through the hydrosphere, through the continental crust, right the way through. Human activity has an impact everywhere. And it comes through the technology that we create. It's not what our ancestors used to do. That didn't have a great impact. It's the technologies that we create that have that impact. And our financial mathematics omits the dimension of space across all layers. And so it fails to account for our context as humans and our impact as humans. Now, what do I mean by financial mathematics, and how does this relate to what we're talking about? Well, if you have a look at the sample of equations that are used by people investing in technology, and in fact, investing in anything, investing in any startup, and you look at all of these dimensions, there are really only two involved when large sums of money change hands, and those are time and risk. How long is it going to take for my money that I put in to give me a return better than the money I put in? And what's the risk involved in doing that? So we have developed for the last several hundred years a financial mathematics of investment that says money goes in, at some point in the future, money comes out. What's the risk? What's the return? And what's the time value of the money that I put in today? You'll notice that those dimensions do not include space. And as a result of not including space, they don't include impact on space either. So we then have to ask ourselves, for all the money we've invested in technologies in the lifetime of this planet, where in these equations is the impact on every layer of space, from water to Earth to the nano world? And it isn't there. It is absent. So the Space Value Foundation was set up to rewrite some of the financial mathematics such that if we started today and said that every investment that occurs has to take account of impact at the point where the financial mathematics of that investment are considered, then sustainability becomes automatic. What is important about this is it applies across all space layers. We have become very, very focused on a very narrow band of the layers of space that are out there. If you look here, really, in many cases, a lot of the discourse that occurs is about carbon in the atmosphere. In fact, we need to be having a discourse about every layer here presented, from subatomic space, the nano world, the micro world, the innermost crust, through the troposphere, the stratosphere, the mesosphere, the thermosphere, all of these layers, right the way through up to the layers that we are talking about, the solar system. Because the goals that we're talking about are going to involve huge amounts of investment. And unless the impact is taken into account in the financial mathematics of that investment, we are kicking the can down the road once again. We are hoping that cleanup technologies that require huge investment will be invested in by people on the same basis of risk and return and time. So impact needs to be built in. And as we start to develop biological spaces off Earth, the impact needs to be built in to the financial mathematics, because if it is not, it will be ignored once again. We can't just work on 2 dimensions. Space has to be the 3rd dimension of investment. And so the space value of money, which I'm going to show you this wonderful book that Armin wrote, really sets out in great detail, and probably somewhat more complex than I'm able to go into here, but it's well worth a read. He said, holding the book upside down. But really, this is the thinking that we need for as we develop off Earth, but is also the basis of how we try to make things better on Earth. It's not the technology, it's the investment into technology and what that investment takes account of. And as we develop, I hope that becomes part of what we all think we need to do as we change our future for humanity. Thank you.
I put a comment. We should include the biosphere in those layers as well. Not only these physical layers, but also those with life.
Yes, I think most of those are on the continental crust and the hydrosphere, but I take your point completely.
But the biosphere will go beyond even. We are going to bring the biosphere to all layers of outer space.
Yes, yes, I agree. So that's our pitch, and any assistance we can provide or any assistance you can give us would be much appreciated. But it's a big ask to change the Goldman Sachses of this world to start thinking the right way.
Okay, so thank you very much, Adrian.
Pleasure.
Very, very meaningful and interesting speech, and we have maybe we have to study more these concepts and to understand better space value, the economical financial value of space, because so far the public opinion only understood it as an expense.
Yeah.
And it's very hard to demonstrate to make them understand that it's also a return. Or there is also already a big return of the space investment, but it will be very much bigger, greater, of several magnitudes when we will start building in space. That will be a different, quite a different environment, economical environment, and not only, also cultural environment and so on. So, okay, I think we can go ahead. Maybe, yeah, you can, okay. I think Ghanim Al-Otaibi is in the program with the 18 SDG and emerging space countries.
Yes.
Yes, Ghanim Al-Otaibi is a young space activist and graduate, and is also in Kuwait initiated a startup, a commercial startup, and is by the way, is in the board of Space Renaissance International, and he is also a member of the Space Generation Advisory Council. So he's very, very active. And yeah, let's hear what Ghanim has to say about the 18 SDG and emerging space countries.
Thank you, Adriano. Thank you, everyone. Of course, I add my voice to everyone here. There are important concepts, important ideas that I definitely share. Of course, to me, the idea is to communicate the urgency of expanding humanity to outer space. And the 18th SDG is powerful when it comes to communicating the concept. My concern here is about emerging countries. And in my presentation, I will mention how I think this will be really, really important. So I think you see my screen right now?
Yes.
Okay. So as mentioned previously by other speakers, also mentioned earlier by Adriano, there are radical change in the last few years. For the first time, for example, one of the changes, for the first time, we started to see high officials in NASA and other spacefaring countries speaking about sustainable presence in the lunar surface. Of course, this is coming up with other visions, with other major space agencies. And this is really important because previously we've only seen engineers, scientists having visions or ideas or concepts for settlements in other celestial objects or space in general. But we are seeing this new paradigm happening. Also, the notable decrease in launching cost and the increased frequency of launching mass to space is telling us that in the future we will have emerging markets, new markets that we are not familiar with right now. For example, space tourism, space solar power, manufacturing in space, and so on, and other emerging markets. This new opportunities and also all the benefits coming with investing in space will be the new paradigm of the space industry. So we are witnessing a revolution by all means. Now, many are warning us that there are existential threat for human race. We are facing climate change. We are facing other pollution problems, overpopulation, the limitation of natural resources of Earth is putting us right now in the 21st century on existential threats. The solution for that is to expand humanity to outer space, to expand our industry outside the biosphere of Earth, to have millions of people living and working in outer space. Now, my main concern here is that the vast majority of the world population are not aware about the new paradigm of the space industry, and they are unaware about the problem, the existential problem, and the solution. So this is a picture by Apollo, one of the Apollo programs, I think Apollo 16, if I'm not mistaken. The United States of America has mobilized the entire country for the Apollo program. And it was, a great success by landing 18 persons in the lunar surface and 18 persons around. So let's imagine a world where they are working together in a central project to expand humanity to outer space, moving industry, and having settlements in different space locations, not motivated only by the Cold War or national prestige as it was in the 60s and 70s, but motivated by survival and existential threats. I think we can't really imagine how it will be in the future. As part of my work with the Moon Village Association, I used to do some surveys because I do mentorship for local teams from emerging space countries. And I ask them many questions. Among the questions, as you can see, why you think your country is not yet involved in moon activities? 80% of the answers, because there is no consideration. It's not considered as a priority by the government. So an 18th SDG will be a catalyst actually to prioritize the civilian space development for everyone, of course, and to involve the vast majority of the world population into this effort. And that's my important, that's the reason why actually I think this is extremely important. So thank you very much, Adriano, and thank you everyone for the amazing talks.
Thank you, Ghanim. I cannot agree more with you because you perfectly explained the really important concepts that are supporting our initiative. So thank you very much. Okay, I think we are now ready to the next speaker is Gary Barnard from Space Development Foundation. Gary, are you there? Yes,
sure. I'm here. I'm adjusting things right now to share my screen.
Excellent. Welcome back, Gary.
All right, let's get this to be cooperative. We have to, and it's going to be that one, and it's going to be a window, portion of the screen, share, and and we switch the screen to, come on, you can do it. Okay, is that showing up and displaying properly now?
Yeah.
Okay, great.
Sure.
Thanks to Adriano and SRI for bringing this meeting together and for the opportunity for the Space Development Foundation to hold forth on this issue. My talk today is on architecting the future. This is the way in Terabang. An interesting nod to current media in those regards. Space for all, on Earth and beyond, an 18th Sustainable Development Goal. Architecting the future requires a different perspective. Arguably, if you find yourself with your nose pressed up against a large concrete wall, it's difficult to have any perspective. If you step back a bit, you could come to understand that perhaps you could go around, if not over that wall. However, just what is that wall from 100 kilometers or higher? You could think of that from a different perspective as the nexus of space. Nexus, in this case, is the intersection between the science of what we know, space systems engineering reduced to practice, and enlightened architectural design, Our mission development efforts could be viewed as a set of conceptual threads intended to draw out the confluence of interests needed to bias work towards better outcomes. The process goal is to reverse engineer the desired outcomes by orchestrating a combination of technology development push and mission requirements pull. In these challenging times, the importance of the investment we make in providing for the future, including space exploration and development, is not to be underestimated. It serves as a foundation for hope. It serves as an affirmation that we are a resilient society that will not be deterred from lending our efforts to forging a brighter tomorrow. I offer this poem as a testament to the same. Why space? The shortest path between any 2 points, physically or conceptually, is not always a straight line, and the answers that we have to this question are no exception. Accordingly, we must come to learn from the myriad of patterns that can offer us knowledge which, transformed by understanding, can over time yield wisdom. Consider these perspectives. We are drawn to bear witness to the unimaginable magnificence of the universe, which unfolds at every scale. We are driven by our nature to know all that is knowable. We strive so that we may yet stand on the threshold of eternity. We dare to boldly go where no one has gone before. We seek to understand and nurture life in its manifold forms. We search for the wisdom that will enable us to transcend our terrestrial travails so that we may yet transform our tomorrows. In terms of understanding outcomes, evolving into a thriving, sustainable spacefaring society will entail a transdisciplinary fusion of science, engineering, and architecture within a framework of understanding. We must learn to wield the application of science, aka technology, the orchestration of systems engineering, the art of design, and test the limits of our understanding. We must become the best stewards we can of Earth, life as we know it, and our expanding habitat into space. Reducing the systems engineering to practice for developing new space systems requires understanding the general problems before point designs. An excellent place to start is by lending your efforts to understanding both the problem space and the potential solution space. From there, identifying the threads that can be used as lenses to examine each aspect of the proposed work and its execution. You could think of these threads as outcome elements. To provide a framework for space development, we need to identify the critical outcome elements. We must ensure that what we are architecting is mission enabling, sustainable, and affordable to use. We must reconcile programmatic objectives to physical and economic reality and the critical outcome elements necessary to sustain the political will. The point is to bias our collective actions towards better outcomes. We have to get better about characterizing both the problem space and the potential solution space, characterizing what we know, and what we know we don't know. The bottom line is that outcome-driven programs that leverage mission requirements pull and technology development push maximize the probability of success and make incumbent orchestration of real and perceived cost, schedule, and technical risk tractable. Paraphrasing Lewis Carroll via the Cheshire Cat, it's a whole lot easier to get to where you're going if you know where you're trying to get to. A short list of critical outcome elements that can and will be impacted by our investment in space exploration, development, and settlement includes maintaining the global energy market, addressing climate change, fostering economic development, enabling regulatory reform, enabling situational awareness on Earth and in space, implementing open standards and interfaces, and providing for long-term sustainability. Arguably, one could indeed say that achieving the Sustainable Development Goals. This list speaks to the fact that space is a potent enough variable to synergistically impact every sustainable development goal. In terms of understanding outcomes, to bring this into some of the contemporary foray, intelligence is more than just large language models. Architecting the future, like all aspects of human endeavor, requires us to learn what actions we are capable of, develop the knowledge to assess the impact of our choices, and the wisdom to understand why we do what we choose to do. Which choices we delegate and which we do not will define us as a species. The space offers arcs of opportunity spanning venues and work vectors. The venues include things that we can do on the ground, things in a space to space, surface to surface on the moon, space to the moon and asteroids, and space to Earth. The work vectors include technology development, demonstration, and deployment orchestrated into missions. These arcs of opportunity necessarily entail flows of people, material, energy, and information. The stakeholders include governments, commercial entities, nonprofit organizations, educational institutions, and individuals. The outcomes we choose to envision and then dare to realize are before us. The bottom line is that outcomes matter. Space for all on Earth and beyond can and should be our 18th Sustainable Development Goal. Space is our future. Let's not wait for it. Let's build it. Thank you for the opportunity to present.
Thank you very much, Gary. A very, very important and inspiring speech you gave. I think, yeah, today is really an important historical meeting because we are putting together our visions that are all a little bit different, but very synergical and converging on the same goal. That's the beautiful thing, a beautiful thing. I cannot thank you more to be here.
An interesting irony is that Mark Hopkins and I on the floor of the NGO assembly in New York offered up an intervention to have the space development goal be the 18th SDG. And one of the things that was very interesting about that was that this led to meetings, an accessibility to the Secretariat, management, which was not common amongst other NGOs, and that we weren't coming asking for something, we were coming wanting to bring something to the table.
Yeah. Fantastic. Thank you very much. Let's go ahead to the next speaker now. We have Hadi Milani of the European Institute Innovation for Sustainability. Hadi, you're there? Maybe not. Okay, I think Hadi is not with us. Therefore, we go ahead to Stefan Recchi of GenSpace.
Yeah, hi, everyone. My name is Stefan Recchi. I'm the Executive Director of GenSpace, and I'm very honored. Thank you, Adriano, for inviting us to this initiative.
Stefan. Very welcome.
Great. I don't have any slides to show, so I'm going to try to keep us on track. Essentially, GenSpace, I started GenSpace with the idea that astropreneurship or entrepreneurship should be global. There should be no borders in doing business. And space should be considered a location versus a vertical, because that gets people confused about doing business in space as a vertical. It encompasses so much. Ever since we started GenSpace, we've actually always tried to map space to every one of the 17 SDG goals. And figuring out how people can be inspired for a future workforce and also to look at space as a career. So we're super excited about adding an 18th SDG specifically for space. It's going to make our job a lot easier because our goal is not just to inspire the next generation workforce, but to share best practices universally among astropreneurs and also to educate the investors. And I know that the previous group was talking about the investment opportunities in space. So I can really sum this up quickly. We're excited that space is now added to what potentially is an impactful thing to do business in. And it's going to really be exciting for Gen to leverage its 200 countries worth of access to get them all visible for space. So with that, Adriano, I give back the floor.
Yeah. Fantastic. Okay. It's all by you, Stefan.
Yes, that's it. That's all.
Okay.
I was very quick.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
So
I like your quote of space as a career, because actually in the UN there was a very strong emphasis on capacity building, so building the workforce for space. But in many areas, you mentioned astropreneur. I try to also train space researchers. We have astronauts from Spaceship Earth. So I think also space as a career to engage also a young professional would be, I think, a very good motto.
That's great.
thank you. Thank you, Bernard. Okay, so we should have Gerd Dunny from Free Astroscience. Gerd, are you with us? Maybe? Maybe not. I don't see him. I don't see him. So we can give the floor to Gabriel Ignetti of the Eco-Modernist Society of North America.
Okay,
Gabe?
okay, you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, well, thanks for having me on. Greetings on behalf of the Eco-Modernist Society of North America. Our goal is to build a powerful movement in the defense of scientific progress and for the exponential advance of science in the service of humanity. We support urbanization powered by safe, energy-dense atomic energy as the most ecologically efficient way for humans to save nature by separating from it. We fully support the movement of human civilization into space as the next step in that necessary decoupling project, which will move mining and ultimately industry off planet. We fully recognize that our continued technological advancement cannot proceed indefinitely without our overcoming our resource constraints through the tapping of the infinite abundance of space, and it's imperative that we move immediately and with utmost vigor to take that next step in the evolution of human civilization. However, we need to face some facts. That next step will be hard. It will be extremely hard. A recent NASA audit estimated that the true cost of the Artemis program at about $93 billion until 2025. And as we know it, it doesn't stop there. It never stops. And we're talking about an extremely, massively expensive project, the results of which many, if not most of us, will never live to see a payoff from. There are 77 nations that have space programs, 16 of which have launch capabilities, and many of which are spending the vast fortunes on redundancies with nothing more than bragging rights in the offing. This go-it-alone approach has accomplished nothing except to slow down progress on vital programs, such as the Asteroid Direct mission, which is cut due to sticker shock. That program would have moved a small asteroid into deep space, from deep space into orbit around the moon as a major first step towards mining space. There's no telling whether rejection of full international cooperation leads to the abandonment of the Artemis program as well. While the last space race has spurred our movement into space, it is more likely that the next space race will be a zero-sum game where the winning nation or nations will completely dominate the planet as they hold a monopoly on most, if not all, of our critical resources. The last thing we need is for the next space race to turn into a resource war and ultimately a world war between nuclear-armed nations. The only way forward is to put aside our differences and move forward together on this and all issues that transcend national boundaries and represent dire and even existential threats to all of us if we don't come together on. Our leaders fail to grasp the fact that focusing on war preparations between nuclear-armed superpowers is a losing proposition because such wars are impossible to win. The more we advance scientifically, the smaller this planet becomes, and the more trivial our security concerns about foreign enemies turn out to be. While our leaders prepare for war, the biggest threat to national security comes from the very problems we choose to ignore. While achieving world peace might be a bridge too far, achieving international cooperation in space is doable. And we must see that our leaders do it, because what we are really facing in the grand scheme of things is not so much a race into space, but a race against time that we can only win together. And so the real question is not whether the truth is on our side, but whether time is on our side. And the answer lies with all of us. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Gabriel, for your speech.
Welcome.
Very, very beautiful. Now let's go ahead to Boris Petrovich of age.The. He will talk about the noospheric cosmoplanetary civilization development. So, Boris, are you ready?
Hello.
Hello, Boris.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yes, but we don't
Can you
see
see
you.
me? Also, you don't see me.
Yes, I hear you, but I don't see you. Okay, now, no, there is there. Sorry, Boris.
Can you see me? Hello?
Yes, we can see you. Hello.
Oh, yeah.
Welcome.
Things from the age.The Mars Village metaverse. I will play a short recorded message. Thank you for the opportunity.
Okay, go ahead.
Greetings from the age.The Mars Village. Ladies and gentlemen, today we gather here to discuss a proposal that has the potential to reshape the future of humanity and our relationship with the cosmos. We are here to advocate for the inclusion of space as one of the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. At age.The, we believe that space exploration extends beyond physical boundaries, and that by recognizing the profound interconnectedness of the universe and embracing the concept of the noosphere, a concept proposed by the philosopher and paleontologist Pierre Teilhard-de-Chardin, representing the realm of human thought and collective consciousness, we can transcend physical boundaries and unlock a new era of scientific discovery, peaceful communication with extraterrestrial beings, and the preservation of extraterrestrial ecosystems. Science, as remarkable as it is, has its limitations. It primarily relies on the instruments of measurement, which are designed to capture physical phenomena. However, we must acknowledge that there exist non-physical phenomena that science as we currently understand it cannot fully measure or comprehend. It is within this realm of non-physical phenomena that the noosphere paradigm finds its significance. One of the key aspects of the noosphere is its recognition of the all-pervading energy information field that permeates the cosmos. Just as the biosphere encompasses the interconnected web of life on Earth, the noosphere encompasses the interconnected web of consciousness and information that extends far beyond our planet. It is through this ethereal realm that we can establish peaceful and meaningful communication with extraterrestrial beings, transcending language barriers and cultural differences. Nikola Tesla, the visionary scientist and inventor, once remarked on the existence of non-physical phenomena. He understood that there are dimensions beyond our immediate perception waiting to be explored and understood. His words echo the importance of recognizing the limitations of our current scientific framework and embracing the vast potential that lies within the non-physical realms. At age.The, we undertake pioneering research in the realm of psychic energy, pushing the boundaries of human potential. Our endeavors encompass the exploration of extrasensorial perception and the augmentation of human energy. By delving into these realms, we aspire to unlock the hidden capabilities of the human mind. The noosphere also implores us to recognize and protect the integrity of extraterrestrial ecosystems. Just as we have come to understand the importance of preserving and respecting terrestrial biospheres, it is vital that we extend the same respect and consideration to the ecosystems that exist beyond our planet. By granting extraterrestrial ecosystems the same rights and protections, we can ensure their preservation and sustainable utilization for generations to come. Furthermore, in our current entropic state of civilization, where we face multiple self-destructive feedback loops, it is crucial to delve into the realm of non-physical phenomena and energetics. The noosphere offers us a potential pathway beyond entropy, enabling us to tap into the new sources of energy, knowledge, and innovation. It is through this understanding that we can extend our reach into outer space and navigate the challenges that lie ahead. In conclusion, the inclusion of the noosphere paradigm in our proposal for space as one of the UN Sustainable Development Goals is of paramount importance. By recognizing the existence of non-physical phenomena, understanding the all-pervading energy information field, and embracing the interconnectedness of the cosmos, we open doors to cosmoplanetary integration. We enable peaceful communication with extraterrestrial beings, protect extraterrestrial ecosystems, and embark on a journey to expand our civilization beyond the confines of entropy. Let us embrace the noosphere paradigm and take a step towards a future where humanity flourishes both on Earth and in the vast expanse of outer space. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Boris, for your really inspiring and artistic speech. Quite inspiring and beautiful. Okay, so good. We could have now Perry Lem.
Both on Earth and in the vast expanse of outer space. Thank you.
Thank you, Boris. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Boris. Okay, can maybe stop sharing. Can you? Okay, fine. So the next one is Perry Lam of OASA. Perry, you are with us?
I don't see him on the board.
Yeah, maybe.
But I see Hank Rogers, which also could deliver a message for
yes,
the International Space Alliance. Yeah.
He asked to talk at 11 p.m. So yeah, for this reason, I kept him for the last. So okay, let's see who's here. Maybe we have Nick Serra of Interstellar Foundation, right?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, so
super. Let me share my screen here. Firstly, thank you for the invitation. Very distinguished panel and guests. So we've had some success with working with UNESCO and subsequently the United Nations, and I think I could talk a little bit about sort of how I think we've been successful working with the organization, and hopefully that can also inform some of the conversations that you guys have. So I think it's a little bit easier with our project because essentially we're remaking the Golden Record, which has a historical connection to the United Nations specifically, whereas the United Nations General Secretary wrote essentially is the opening of the Golden Record, and basically sends this particular piece where, to teach if we are called upon, to be taught if we are fortunate. We know full well that our planet and its inhabitants are a small part of this immense universe that surrounds us, and with it, humility and hope that we take the step. And essentially what we had sort of initially started with in our project had been to start discussions with United Nations. Those discussions actually led to sort of more fruitful discussions with UNESCO. But we've also seen as well from what we're doing, and I put this slide up here to show how many of the 17 sustainability goals are directly benefited from work that is done in space. And essentially, I'll go into a little bit about how we work with UNESCO, but from our educational aspect, we basically work only in UNESCO schools, and we use space as the example to teach things on the planet. So what does agriculture look like in Mars? How does that affect agriculture in Uganda? And how can agriculture in Uganda and solutions that are in Uganda be used as part of the conversation in terms of what we do on Mars as well? And I had a very interesting conversation with somebody around space law. And one of the ideas was essentially around making air a universal basic right. And that doesn't sound like too much of a thing, but if you're in space and there's a company that has the ability to turn off your air, if it's not a universal basic human right, that becomes a bit of a problem. And what that essentially does is discussions. I'd had a discussion with this around this particular point with the UNESCO communications director, who had said that the interesting thing about that is that it would obviously change a lot of our understanding, or a lot of our law systems about air on the planet, and it would be very good for environmental struggles if air became a universal basic human right. In our project, there's two main themes. Is with a golden record project, there is what do we say, and how do we say it? And again, what do we say? We try to maintain that there is inherent bias in a lot of information that we have especially in digital records. And how do we account for some of that bias? How do we basically make sure that there is proper representation? And again, we have conversations with UNESCO and with United Nations around creating this information in a powerful way. This is just we basically launched our first mission to the moon. Our head of archives is the UNESCO head of archives, and we've worked quite closely with UNESCO for this particular project, specifically around their archives, but then again with the UNESCO Associated Schools program, where essentially they've got 12,000 schools across 182 countries. And we've essentially put together a space club that is going to be going out to hopefully to these 12,000 schools. We're starting with a 6-school pilot in Uganda, Kenya, and in South Africa. And again, the idea is to really sort of use these particular space interesting things that especially young people find about space to teach real world problems or real world solutions to problems that we're having here. Another program that we do have connection to UNESCO on is our aspirations program, where essentially what we're doing is we're collecting aspirations from around the world to again account for within the scope of a golden record message, not just the facts, but a bit more about who we are as a species on the planet. And yeah, I mean, I could go for hours in terms of talking about our projects, because I think it's obviously a very fun and exciting project, and would be happy to chat to any of the esteemed guests privately about this. But essentially, I think people do see this as a space project. We predominantly see ourselves as a communication project, but a communication through space and time. I will say that with conversations with UNESCO, what has been very clear is they love the idea of looking at the same problems through a different lens. And I think what space does to many conversations is it allows you to look at the same things through a different lens. And I think especially from the idea of boundaries and the things that we put out there that sort of hold us back from really connecting to each other, from space, those boundaries obviously no longer exist. And the idea that as we move further into space, we have one also big sort of question that we tend to ask a lot in our project is who speaks for Earth? I think if the United Nations wants to be sort of the organization that does in some ways help to speak for Earth, I think this is an important addition to the United Nations sustainability goals. Thank you very much.
It's very interesting. I wanted to mention that we have worked on a project of Moon Alexandria Library as well. And it was also an initiative where we saw there was a very strong interest to project into space, you know, who we are, our diversity of culture. So that's something that it would be interesting to work together.
Please do get in contact. Yeah, I would think I would say that the project tends to transcend the boundaries of people who are interested in space.
Yeah.
And I think organizations like UNESCO and United Nations find that very helpful, because I think that a lot of people do enjoy the idea of space, but there seems to be a lot of sort of barriers around sort of what that close relationship.
Okay. Thank you very much, Nick. And okay, let's go ahead. Now it's time for Hank Rogers of the International Moon Base Alliance. Hank.
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes, I do.
Yes. I'm sorry. I'm in Lisbon right now, and I'm in a noisy place. I'm on the balcony, trying to speak, but I will give it a go. You know, when we think about the Sustainable Development Goals, we're thinking about how to preserve this planet, but the human sphere of influence has gone well beyond this planet. And I think we need to start thinking about how to sustainably develop the Moon and Mars. It's kind of the responsibility of this generation to do this with, how can I say, with care. And if we don't do it with care, then we have an opportunity to do exactly the kind of damage that we've done on this planet to every place else that we go. So I don't separate the Earth and the rest of the universe into two different areas. They're, as far as I'm concerned, we are occupying both areas now. That's one side of it. And the other side of it is the SDGs. You know, right now we have a number of satellites that are watching what's going on Earth, but they tend to be owned by just a few countries. And so it's very easy for those countries to manipulate the data today so that they look better in terms of how, you know, what kind of progress they are making towards the SDGs. And my concept there is that you get what you inspect, not what you expect. So if we expect to have to achieve the Sustainable Development Goals, we will need to watch what's going on independently of the couple of big players that are in space right now. This means the democratization of space. It means everybody should have the ability, every country, every company, whatever, should have the ability to send satellites up to space and to watch what's going on Earth, because it's the one way that we can find out what is really going on. You know, where is the deforestation? Where is the carbon footprint? Where is the garbage in the ocean? All of those things will be found in space. And so we could look at space as being the place where we look back on Earth. It's sort of our mirror. But we also have to look at space as being the place that we should go, and we should be sustainable in all of those places. We shouldn't create the same problems that we've created on Earth. So that's my 2 cents. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Hank. Thank you for your speech, and okay, for being with us while you are traveling for your mission, of course. And yes, I think today we had some very important concepts that were shared among us ourselves. And I think one of these concepts is the concept of space universality, that universal environment of solar system. And I remember in the Frank White speech, he was talking with a young lady, she talked about there is no separation between Earth and outside Earth. I think this is very important. We have to
that's a very good point, actually.
Yes,
the first Egyptian astronaut.
And also, I am sad that we didn't have Mary-Louise Heuser today with us, because she had talked to us about transterrestrialism. That is another concept of developing, the interface between Earth and outside Earth orbit and cislunar space and so on. But we will have other opportunities. Now, I think we have Henry Nagano and Peter Frank with us. They are from the United Humanity of the Universe and
Society.
Maybe they have something to tell us too, right?
Okay. Yes. Really happy to see you guys and what's going on, and a very impressive meeting you have. And what we have been doing is since the first policy making meeting at the Moscow 2018, 5 years ago, we presented the concept of United Humanity of the Universe Society, meaning that we have to unite humanity because of the way we're developing. And we get very good responses from the foreign minister of Deputy Moscow, and also Vice President of the United States, and kind of thing. So what we're gonna recommend you is that take a look at our thinking, www.uhu.world. It's in the worldwide been looked at. So our concept is here, and I'm glad that you folks are talking about SDG here. In fact, in the our website shows our activity 6. We have a 3 major mission in that concept, and the out of that activity 6, in fact, talked about putting these SDG and combining UHU and universe and Earth. So if we have opportunity, you can put together a briefing chart, which we provided to the Moscow, first policy meeting of the space at 2018 Moscow, and we have a website there. And so if we have opportunity, we would like to present to you maybe next time. So all I can say right now is that could you take a look at the website www.uhu.world, WORLD, okay? In that, our concept, 3 mission and 6 to 7 activities going on. And in that, we talk about the combining, adding a space to the SDG activity as a. So you folks are doing a great job. Really appreciate that the meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for being with us, for sharing your concepts and your ideas. So I think we are going to close.
Sorry, did anybody have
sorry.
Anybody had a chance to talk? Because I saw some names of those that maybe Anita from NSS or Eugenia, also to have a good balance in giving the voice to the lady from space.
We have Guy Pignolet.
Yes.
Guy Pignolet.
Yeah. So Anita?
So I had not planned to say anything. Actually, I'm willing to yield any time allocated to NSS to Carlton and Alfred Enzaldua and Rick Janae. By the way, I have with me here Dan Hawk and Robin Hawk, who represent Indigenous peoples in the United States.
Oh,
so I don't know if you, I don't know if you want them involved. And Carlton had mentioned all nations should be involved, but maybe First Nations should be involved in this as well. So I had not planned to say anything, and we actually have some confusion. There's an event that we know about on the 19th of September at the UN, and we're trying to figure out the relationship between this one and that one.
Yes, I'm going to be convening a panel on the 19th of September in the United Nations, but it's an Indigenous panel. Dan's going to be doing the indigenous panel, and I'm going to be doing the space science pioneers.
Okay, so maybe completely different.
But
Yeah, but I think it's good to coordinate. Yeah.
We talked about the UN Sustainable Development Goal 18, and we heard the same kind of pushback from the United Nations that not sure if that's, in fact, we were told this is the post SDG agenda.
I wanted to add one thing, from my point of view as being Native American, the Sustainable Development Goal 18 for space, for us about social justice issue. And the reason why I'm saying that is because the United Nations says that, space is for everyone, space is a human right. And for indigenous people, it's a right of self-determination. And part of that then would be, if we're looking at our orbital space and increasing debris, that if you have underrepresented peoples around the world that are going into space, they're going into space at a time that they are facing increasing debris. And so that is a social justice issue. And that could be one of the additional reasons for wanting Sustainable Development Goal 18 to be a part of space.
Yeah, actually, this was addressed at the UN Caucus last week, actually by the Working Group on Sustainable Space. And actually, they added even a special mention to indigenous people. So a few delegations like Canada, also so Australia and so added a special mention. And in our case, Space for All, of course, include in particular indigenous people. They have also their view to give, and so that we could try to make a connection. So even if the event we organize is really specific SDG 18, we could also link with some of the other space-related events. Last year, we organized an activity which was space science for all. But I think if you organize also a series of other events, we could also echo in the session we organize on SDG 18 the other dimension of what we do in space, because we have also to use this platform also just to promote space science, space technology, space economy for the common public. And so the more different fronts we can work on also, and the more broader impact we can have beyond UN.
And space biology.
Space biology, yes, welcome.
Thank you for recognizing me. If you want to have a female face, what I could do, since I'm CEO of National Space Society, is perhaps I could briefly introduce the National Space Society speakers, Carlton and Alfred. So I'll let you negotiate that with them if you would like that to happen.
Yeah, that's very good. Yeah, we want to get the whole National Space Society involved, the International Committee we know well, but many activities. And also we have mentioned that we had been contacted in previous years to organize the National Space Society Space Renaissance Europe event. And we are been working on the possibility to organize an event just a week before the International Astropolitical Congress next year, which is in Milano. So, and we could do an event possibly in Leiden in the Netherlands, on your way to ISC. And we are going to work on some of this logistics organization, but clearly we will incorporate some of this Sustainable Development Goal 18 plan of actions into what we do in NSS Europe.
Outstanding. Well, keep Carlton and Alfred and Richard informed. And we'll definitely work with you. Thank you so much.
So I would like to say, Anita, thank you very much for showing your women face here. It's not our guilty. It's not our guilty if today only men have given speech. It's because our associations, our organization, maybe didn't give enough space to women so far.
Yeah, but actually,
so this is one of the things we should develop more.
Yeah. Another lady with us. We have with us Eugenia, which yes, please, Anita. Yes, please, Anita. And then I can yes.
I'll add that I've been around the male part of the space industry. I graduated from college in 1974. Yes, I'm that ancient. And when I was in college, engineering enrollment of women passed 1%. So I understand why among us people of more vintage, there are very few females. Okay, carry on. Sorry.
Yeah, so I wanted also to introduce Eugenia, that I have met at the Space Exploration Conference in Torino, an event that we had a few weeks ago. And Eugenia has expressed a very strong interest to do some research with us. And she has also joined Space Renaissance International. So now, Eugenia, if you want to introduce your view, yes.
Hi, I'm Eugenia Gallio. I'm a student of aerospace engineer, and I'm very interested in these activities and these programs, and in also in this association, Space Renaissance, because I really like and I really love space programs, space associations and activities.
So thank you. And yes, we clearly want to give you a role and a task in some of our follow-on activities, and clearly you can also help us to connect to the to the other gender, and as well to involve some of your female colleagues in this platform.
Yeah, see, I participate in the organization for this conference, and for me is beautiful to have this opportunity with you, and I met some people for this conference for introduce the abstract and the arguments that they said tonight.
Yes, Eugenia was of great help to the organization of this event today, because she wrote an email to all the speakers, recalling them, asking them for an abstract, for a title, and so on. So she was fundamental for the organization of this event today. So thank you very much, Eugenia. Eugenia will work with us also for the September initiative at UNGA, and of course, she's a student, so she is giving us some few volunteers hours, but they are very, very much appreciated. Thank you, Eugenia. And now,
thank you.
Before closing, I see our old friend Guy Pignolet. I think maybe he would like to say something to us, even just a greeting, or what you prefer to do. First of all, unmute. Okay.
Well, thank you, Adriano. We've known each other for a couple of years, but I recognize here some friends, some have known for 40 years. And before this started, I was with Frank White. We met 40 years ago. I shouldn't say that but to invent the fact that we are Solarians, not only Earth people. And I will just say a couple of words. If we consider that planet Earth by her other name of Gaia, that she is a living system of higher order, that we are part, all the signs of difficulties that the world is knowing now are maybe the pangs that say that Gaia is pregnant and is going to give birth not to new moons, but smaller, or Mars, smaller planets, artificial planets, which will be small Gaias made out of asteroids. And we are the elements in the Gaia system who are helping with the small and larger group. We are helping Gaia to give birth to a new civilization.
Excellent, of course. So we are the midwife, and
yes.
In the same time we are the fetus of the solar civilization baby. that we are going to burn in. Yeah, I also wrote a book several years ago called "Earth is not ill; she is pregnant," on the same concept. Yeah, yeah. Of course, it's a great similitude. Yeah, because it well expresses the urgency to help Gaia to give birth. Because if she doesn't give birth, we will have an abortion. That will be very, 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 very bad thing, you know. So, but Gaia now needs to give birth. She needs to do it. When a human female is going to give birth, she has to do it. There is no possibility to delay it. So this is one of our tasks. What Stephen Wolf was talking when we talk about the obligation, no? Our obligation includes to help Gaia to reproduce her biome in the solar system.
Yes, and I'm calling from Reunion Island, which is a small-scale model of the blue planet and a large-scale model of the babies of Gaia.
Yes, yes. I look very much forward to come one day to see you in Réunion. It should be beautiful, beautiful island, of course. Okay.
Great memories with Guy Pignolet.
Okay, friends. Anybody else want to say something? Let me see.
Go.
Who we still
Thank
have?
you for inviting us.
Thank you. So yes, on behalf of Space Renaissance International, I want really to thank all the contributors to this long effort that we have started quite some time ago, but that is really taking off like a rocket. And that is, but we require also the contribution in many areas of many of us, and also some of those that we will convince. And this is multidimensional. That includes space for all. So the science, the technology, the economy, the business from all the countries as well, all generations. And so, yes, we are looking forward some of the next events and activities that we plan there. Now, I want to say also some of this umbrella of Space for All, this goes very much under the plan of action that we have also discussed for Space Renaissance International with various consolidated actions that we will have to work on. So we look forward some of the opportunities to continue. So we have this event also planned at the UN, but we are also going to present it at various platforms. We will be at the International Astropolitical Congress in Baku to present it. And we have also a number of events and activities worldwide. And of course, as well, some of the in-depth activities that we are conducting in the Space Renaissance committees, where also we do some of the work. But what I see also, thanks Adriano for really putting a lot of energy, organization with your team to develop this work. We saw also this was a great catalyst for getting partnership with organizations that have joined us, but we have discovered and we are looking forward to do joint project with you. So we are discovering some of you and opportunities to work all together on this. Thank you very much from Space Renaissance.
Thank you.
Bernard and Adriano, are you planning on curating the collection of presentations and remarks that were assembled today? I think that there could be something certainly of enduring value there, and perhaps invite people to revise and extend their remarks as they as appropriate.
Yes, definitely, that's a worth thing to do, and of course this video will remain on YouTube, so we can keep on advertising it and inviting people to watch it. And of course, all of our presentations will be in the video, but we can also collect all the PowerPoint or PDF presentation and put everything together and make a page on the website where the presentation can be seen and downloaded by interested people. Yes, I think, yes, this is a worth thing to do. And so I recommend Some of you already sent your presentations to me. The one who didn't yet, please send them to me, and so we can make the collection of the, let me say, the ACTA book of today.
Yeah, and I sent an updated deck. One of my slides hung.
Yeah, we saw that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, everybody, and see you next time. Ad Astra.
Yeah. Thank you for your efforts.